Hello, y'all, guys. Hi. I'm going to be reviewing a $10 Chinese watercolor palette I bought at Jerry's Artorama. I also, well, it's not a palette, it's a set. The palette is bought separately for $7, and the paper was bought separately for about $15, $20. I can't even remember the price of the paper. But it's a hot press, which I usually get cold press watercolor papers. But yeah, the video's not about the paper, it's about the paints. The paints, um, yeah, they were only $10, and they were from a brand that had another set of watercolors, but I really wanted to try out another set of Chinese watercolors because I used to have them and they worked very, very well for my galaxies. So I wanted to try them again. Um, yeah, there's a lot of kind of weird colors in this palette, like those turquoises, the reds. If you notice, like it's kind of like overloaded with turquoise and overloaded with red. They have a black and they have a white. The whites are so pigmented. I mean, all of the paints in these, first of all, are very pigmented. Um, the white is just perfect, and I can use it for my stars. I don't have to use acrylic paint, but I still probably use it anyways. One thing to be wary about when you're purchasing watercolor palettes that are, a bit on the inexpensive side or the cheaper side is that the consistency will never be the same. So the first two yellows that I used were like very liquidy, and then the last color that I used, that middle red, like the red after the first two, it came out very thick. And that happens throughout the whole palette. Like that's just what happens. So when you're purchasing a cheap watercolor palette like Reeves or those things that they like the generic ones they got at AC Moore and Michaels, like it's gonna be inconsistent with the texture, but that won't always affect how your watercolors work, I guess, because it will dry down, then you'll re-wet it and it'll be okay. Another thing I noticed, sorry, my voice is cracking. Oh my gosh. Another thing I noticed is this color that I'm using. The tube is literally completely different than all of the rest of the tubes. Like, just out of nowhere, they just was freestyling with that tube. I don't know what happened, but it didn't really matter. The texture or the consistency wasn't much different than the rest. But yeah, that was like a burnt sienna color, and then they had a burnt umber color. I put that purple to the side because I wasn't sure if I had enough space in my palette for it, and so I was waiting to the end. I feel like I have to burp. Another thing is that like a lot of the colors, like when you look at the palette from afar, it's like a really nice, yellow to dark colors or light colors to dark colors. Like, it's like a rainbow, but when you look closely, it's like they like put the colors not in quite the right order. Like that dark red came out of nowhere. The brown and then the turquoise, like right afterwards, was just kind of like, y'all really was out here freestyling. So, I mean, you do you, boo. But still, it was just kind of like annoying because I usually put my colors on my palette in the way that they come so that I can, like, I guess remember the names and the stuff like that, or have the names. Also, all the names of it was written down in, like, not written down, but like printed as numbers. So the name, there's no names. It's just like numbers, and I like names, but it's whatever. Um, yeah, I'm about to start doing some swatches. Uh, so I'm just gonna go ahead and let you guys watch the swatches, and I'll probably say things along the way. So with that first row I did, the colors, well, with all of the colors I use, the colors are pretty like nice, but they settle completely different than probably any watercolor you've ever used, if I'm gonna be honest. First of all, it dries very, very matte. These colors, like my last Chinese watercolors, dry very matte. So maybe that's just like the thing. Honestly, I never researched Chinese watercolors or the difference between Chinese watercolors and normal watercolors. So this is just kind of like first impressions, or I guess second, because I've had a set before. But yeah, it settles very weird, kind of. It doesn't blend completely very well. It will take a lot of work if you want to blend your colors like in a very nice pretty gradient way, I guess. I don't know how to like word this. But for my galaxies it works very well. That's why I love them for my galaxies, because it works just very well for me personally. I'm like able to get those layers that I really want, where like there's splotches and then another splotch over it. So if you do abstracts or galaxies or even like beaches or something or sceneries, I think it would be very good for that. But I don't know how well this would work for something like portraits or something like a very realistic, hyper-realism piece. So I'm gonna actually just get into the painting part of this. I'm painting a galaxy because I felt like that was the most fair way for me to test these colors, as I plan on painting galaxies with this palette. I also plan on kind of doing like poster kind of pieces. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but maybe I'll do another another video where I'm doing something like showing you what I mean. But it kind of reminds me of gouache in the texture, so that's what I was trying to go for. Like, I'm thinking like posterish, gouache-ish kind of things. It looks like I have a candle, but that's like my water. Also, that red, like, it just spread out so much, so I had to add something in between it to like make it not a big giant red blotch. And I added that very pretty turquoise color that I loved a lot. And it looks great in my opinion. This is not like the kind of galaxy I would usually create, I guess. It's very bright, and even it's so bright that I didn't really mix a lot of my colors. I wanted to try to use all the colors straight out the tube so I would get them as pure as possible. And even with like my other palettes, I'm able to do that and still get a color that's dark enough without having to use black, because I don't like using black. But as you see here, I used black because I needed something that was a little darker. I'm sure I could have possibly mixed the dark red and the really, really dark blue, and maybe even the burnt umber, and gotten a dark color, but the way that the colors were working, the way that the paint was mixing, even on my palette, was like, it wasn't exactly doing what I wanted to do. Okay, also, the colors can get kind of muddy when they blend with each other on the page, so you have to be very careful. Like, it's just a very weird texture that I noticed both Chinese watercolors that I've had is. So here's after I was completed the piece. I'm sorry that I didn't get the stars, but I was just showing you guys how to fix a ripped piece of paper, like, when you take the tape off, and I just use Mod Podge and a tiny brush, and it works perfectly, and it's unnoticeable. So I just wanted to show you guys this. And I'm sorry that I couldn't get the stars in the video. It's just, it didn't want to work that way because my phone, I recorded all this on my phone, so it was very difficult, and it wanted to be vertical. So I'm gonna actually go now because the video is over. Subscribe to my YouTube if you want, like it if you want. And it was nice talking to y'all. Well, talking to myself, honestly. But have a good day.